My name is Jonathan Friedman. I'm the Development Director here at the Parkinson's Institute, and I'd like to thank you for coming and welcome you to this interesting and informative event. We schedule these, what we call patient seminars, every other month. And if we have your email, you may have received the notification of this meeting. I'm in charge of fundraising, and my job is to raise money. So for those of you who feel so inclined, we have prepared fundraising letters for you to send out to your friends and your family if you feel that that's appropriate. It's helped us in fundraising in the past, and it's an interesting way because your friends and your relatives are interested in your situation if you have Parkinson's or if a loved one has Parkinson's. And they may feel more inclined to donate receiving an appeal from you rather than from me, because they don't know me. I don't have Parkinson's, but they can certainly relate to you. So we have some packages available, which includes sort of a blank letter that describes what we do and indicates that you have Parkinson's. We have some blank envelopes, and we have return envelopes. For those who wish to donate, they can send those back to us. So I encourage you that if you're interested in doing so, please pick up the packets, which I believe are on this table over here. Again, it's very helpful to us. We find that people who have been touched by Parkinson's are the ones that are most likely to donate, and now more than ever before, we need everyone's help. And it's my pleasure, my great pleasure, to introduce the lovely and talented and director of our clinic, Melanie Brandenburg.
Thank you, Jonathan. All right, so we're switching the order because I have to go back in the clinic and see patients. They don't let me out very often. So I'm going to just talk about some ways to handle stress during the holidays. But first, I wanted to do a couple of housekeeping things. One is thank you to Lauren and Maria, who worked very hard putting this together, and Jonathan. And again, thanks to Teva for providing snacks. If you want to get some idea what we need people's donations for, we do a lot of different kinds of studies here, trying to find ways to alleviate Parkinson's in various ways. And Maria will be giving a tour after this is over. We do have a clinic here. I think we have about 3,000 or 4,000 active patients. We do clinical trials. I think we're up to 24, 25 different clinical trials studying various types of new drugs and treatments. I know there's some patients here that are participating in our trials, and one of them said to me in particular that participating in a clinical trial gives him a feeling of that he's psychologically striking back against the disease. So think about participating in a clinical trial. If you want more information, there's a sign-up somewhere for that, I think over there, for clinical trials. That doesn't mean you're signing up to be a guinea pig. It means you're signing up to say that you're interested and that you can be contacted with regard to studies. And if we have any patients that are in studies that would be willing to talk to people, let me know and I can point them out to you. So people complain that there aren't any new drugs or treatments for Parkinson's disease, and this is how we get them. We have people in these studies. So if you want to speed up the rate at which we get new medications and treatments, you should sign up. That's the guilty pitch. Okay, so we're going to talk, one of the reasons we're having this is that a lot of my patients complain of feeling stressed out. I mean, everybody feels stressed out during the holidays, but stress can aggravate Parkinson's disease. All of my patients tell me this, that when they're under stress, either family stress or work stress or sometimes just no obvious stress at all, their symptoms get worse. Almost everybody says this. So, this is Maria, by the way. Oh, I have to get turned up? Okay. Then I'll get feedback. I know this is what's going to happen. So, okay, thanks. This is Maria, so she's going to be giving the tour later. So I've talked to people over the years about how to try to alleviate the stress that comes on during the holidays. And so I'm going to talk a little bit about some of those ideas, too. One of the things I want to take, because I didn't put this in my presentation, the Institute, not to add to your stress, but we will be closed over the holidays. So if you're a patient here, this is a good time to check in and make sure you have all your refills, or if you need to get in quickly to see us before the holidays or something like that, it's a good time to take care of that, because when I was on call last year over Christmas, people kept calling up needing their prescriptions refilled urgently. So we try to avoid that so we can all take a well-needed break. And so please do your part by checking to see if you need a prescription while there's still time. Okay. So a lot of people travel over the holidays, and there's some tips. We actually have a sheet that we hand out in the clinic with some tips for traveling with Parkinson's disease. People say, well, I have Parkinson's disease. Should I be traveling? And the answer is, well, not unless if you hate it, then you shouldn't. But if you like to travel, there's no reason why with a little bit of management you can't handle that with Parkinson's disease. And most of my patients, when they go off on a trip, unless it's visiting relatives that they hate or something, they come back feeling rejuvenated and more positive. A lot of them will walk more on a trip than they walk at home, so they actually build up their stamina while they're on vacation. So I think traveling in general is a good idea. But try to travel with a companion and make sure that you keep the names of your doctor, insurance company, and emergency contacts and medications in your wallet or purse. We do have cards in the clinic for that say, I have Parkinson's disease, because sometimes people with Parkinson's will have a little dyskinesia. If they're stopped while driving, the police may think that they're intoxicated. If your medications or your Parkinson's is affecting your driving, maybe you shouldn't be driving, but and you still have to follow the traffic rules, even if this is not a get-out-of-jail-free card, like, well, I was speeding because I have Parkinson's disease. That doesn't work. But we do have these cards if you want to get one in the clinic. It's got, it says, I have Parkinson's disease. It's got a place to put in your doctor, contact information, list of medications, and so forth. It's also got a list of medications that people with Parkinson's disease should avoid in the smallest print you have ever seen. I think they should hand it out with one of those little magnifying cards. But it's a helpful thing if you get in the emergency room for some reason, that the emergency room doctors know that there are certain medicines you should not have. You want to take a fanny pack or backpack because not only is this better for your posture than being weighted down on one side by something, it also keeps your hands free. So in case you need to steady yourself or grab onto something, it's a good thing to do. Sometimes people do better with the walking poles or the trekking poles when they're walking long distance. Don't be shy about using whatever accommodations the airport has about getting you to your flight quickly with one of those little golf carts or something. Take snacks with you, especially if you need food to take your medication. The food on planes these days is not exactly gourmet fare most of the time. So you want to make sure that if you tend to get lightheaded if you don't eat or something like that, you want to make sure you have some snacks to carry you through, some good quality snacks of like dried fruit or nuts or something like that. Wear comfortable clothing. This is not the time for your high-heeled shoes. I have ladies that come to see me and they say, well, I know I'm not supposed to wear high heels, but I'm going to wear them as long as I can. Okay, and I can sympathize with that. But walking through a long airport is not a good time to wear the uncomfortable clothing. If your blood pressure tends to drop, I didn't put this one on here, but a lot of people with Parkinson's, their blood pressure will go down, especially if they're sitting for long periods of time in a car or on a plane. The fluid tends to pool in the ankles, and if that tends to happen to you, you might want to consider getting the thigh-high support stockings that really fit snugly to alleviate that. That will help kind of massage the fluid back up to your chest so it won't pool so much in your ankles. If you're making a hotel reservation, you might want to ask for an accessible type bathroom. They've got the grab bars in the shower, and things are generally wider apart so you can move around more easily. Some people with Parkinson's, when they're in closed spaces, they tend to take small steps, and that can contribute to falls. So it's nicer to have things spread out a little bit. And sometimes they're easier to get to because they might be on the ground floor and so forth. One of my patients told me, because I gave her some hints to travel. She went to Europe, and I said, is there anything that I should have put on there that I didn't? And she recommended those. There's like a little 3-legged stool that carries you can carry over your shoulder on a strap. Has anyone seen those? And she said that would have been nice to have because sometimes you're waiting in line for a museum or to get in to see something, and you might need to sit down. And so take a little thing to sit on. It's helpful too. Now, if you're going to take, some of my patients will call up and say, is it okay to take those motion sickness drugs and so forth when I travel? And I recommend that you do try it first. You don't want to try it for the first time when you're on the plane or on the cruise. So take a day when you don't have a lot going on, and take a very small dose of it and see how it affects you, because some of those drugs will make people woozy. So you want to make sure that you can tolerate it. You don't want to ruin your vacation trying out a new medication. I don't know if it does you any good to take the anti-diarrhea medicine ahead of time, but you at least want to make sure you don't have like the biggest, fattest dose of something. Find out if your medications are sun sensitive, so that if putting them on or taking them, it makes you more susceptible to sunburn or rashes, or if the medicine itself needs to be in some kind of light-proof container, and make sure and arrange for that before you travel. Carry a list of schedule of medications with you at all times. I've been lucky for years. I was not on the plane when, they say, is anyone on board, a doctor or nurse? But in the last month, I've had it twice. And so I've had people who weren't able to really give me their medical history, and I've been trying to pull it out of an uninformed companion what medications they're on. So you should have that easily accessible when you travel, because if there's a doctor or a paramedic that needs to treat you, they need to know what medications you're taking. So I got really lucky, because both times it was neurologic emergencies, and one was someone who was having a seizure, which for a neurologist is not a big deal, and one guy, okay, this is another don't. He had flown from Tokyo to San Francisco, stayed up all night partying, drinking heavily, didn't eat breakfast or drink any liquids, and then got on another plane. So he was practically fainting. And I had to sit there and pour him a lot of orange juice and give him salty snacks. So that's a don't when you're traveling. Don't do that to your body. He was a young guy, but he should have known better. And it took us about half a gallon of orange juice to get his blood pressure up to 70/40. So, and fortunately, there were 2 nurses on that flight. I got really lucky. So you want to use common sense when you travel. Don't punish yourself. I had people who went and the people they were traveling with wanted to do some cheapy overnight flight, red-eye flight, and they went along with it, and it didn't go well. So give yourself time to rest in between flights. Don't do ridiculous things like flying all night. Stay hydrated. Stay well. If possible, you want to have an alarm that you set, because if you get caught up in your sightseeing or you're visiting, you may forget to take your medications on schedule. Check with your doctor. Get these prescriptions lined up for these other medications like antidiarrheals or motion sickness drugs before you leave. Don't wait till you have an emergency overseas. Think about now, some people need to take their medicine with food, and some people need to take their medicine without protein in their system. So be sure and build those considerations in when you're planning your itinerary. Is there going to be the kind of food that you need available when you need it? And again, take snacks with you. Sometimes people have daytime sleepiness from the medications. This is a good thing to get straightened out before you take a long car trip, for example, because you don't want to be falling asleep while driving, obviously. And then a lot of patients ask us, well, if I'm flying overnight to Europe or something, how should I take my medications? What I usually tell them is, there's a certain point on usually it's an evening flight, they show you the movie, they turn out the lights and pretend like it's nighttime, even though it's like 8 o'clock. And that's the point you should take your last dose of the day. Then, in a few hours when you get there and they turn on the lights and pretend like it's morning, even though for you it's 2 o'clock in the morning, that's when you start taking your morning dose. And usually that works pretty well. Coming back, you may have to take an extra dose because your day will be longer. But usually that's relatively simple, not a big deal. And try to continue taking your medications at relatively the same time. All right, now surviving the holidays, a lot of my patients will say, I'm always the one that hosts everything, and then these people come, and I have to do all this work, and it exhausts me and stresses me out. And I've had people where the stress effects on their Parkinson's has lasted for weeks or longer after the holidays were over, or people can get in a post-holiday kind of depression or something like that. So you want to plan ahead so that it's less likely to happen. If you're the type that does everything and hosts everybody and cleans up and all that, I would say just don't. Just say, I can't do it this year. Have somebody else host. Tell them you'll bring a favorite dish or two, preferably one that you can make ahead of time, but really try to get as many of those people out of your hair as you possibly can. If you say, well, that's fine, but nobody else will do it, then you have to relax some of your standards. I mean, I know everybody has certain standards, like that everything has to be made from scratch or that the house has to be perfect. This is a good time to throw a lot of that stuff out the window. First of all, if you have a whole house full of people, nobody's going to really notice if there are dust bunnies under the couch. And if you get rid of them before the people come, they're going to just put them back there anyway, right? So by the time they leave, you're going to have to clean it all over again. So just don't get too tied up in that. Find some people that are really your helper types to help you, and don't be afraid to assign them duties. I gave a talk at the Villages yesterday, and one of the caregivers said, "What advice do you have for caregivers?" And what I said was, you go home, you look in the bathroom mirror, and you practice saying yes. So that when someone says, "May I help? Can I do this for you?" Instead of saying, "Oh, no, I've got it covered," you say yes. "Yes, please. I'm very appreciative of your offer." And you say yes. And for a lot of people, it's really, really difficult to do that. I know it's difficult for me sometimes. So just say yes. Get people lined up ahead of time. Don't wait until you're exhausted at 3 in the morning and thinking, how am I going to get all this done before they come? Line these people up ahead of time. If these relatives are not the type to pitch in and help, don't let them in your house. Tell them, I looked at some hotel options, and there's some lovely hotel options in different budget ranges, and I think you'll find them very accommodating. And we'll see you on Saturday afternoon for 2 hours. Don't let them walk all over you. You have to draw a line in the sand and think about what's important. Letting these people come in and trash your house and be waited on hand and foot is not reasonable. Do minimal cleaning. No point in it. It's just going to get messy afterwards. As long as the surfaces are relatively clean, no one will notice whether they're dust bunnies. And if they're the type that would come in your house and look for dust bunnies, you don't want them there anyway. They're not worth having. This is not the year to say, well, Uncle Joe has been clean and sober for 3 weeks, and I think it's a good time to reintroduce him to the family now that he's out of prison. This is not the time to invite a stressful mess into your house. The people who are cheerful and will come and spread holiday cheer, fine. The people who are negative and will stress everybody out and cause fights, invite them next year or tell them, say, if you want them to come, you can have the whole thing at your house next year and invite them, fine. Then you can leave. What else? Oh, and then you can always use your doctor as an excuse. You say, my doctor says I can't do this year. My doctor use us, we can be the bad guys. I don't mind, I do it all the time. So you can, I have teenagers, I have to be the bad guy. So you say, I would love to have everybody over, but my doctor just said I cannot do this. I should not do this. And I can write it on a prescription pad if you need me to. So. Do not neglect your exercise and rest schedules. A lot of people say, well, it's the holidays, they stop exercising, they eat stuff they shouldn't, they drink stuff they shouldn't, they don't get enough rest, and it causes a spiral of doom. So don't go there. You can say, if you've got guests, you say, my doctor says I have to take a nap every afternoon. My doctor says I have to go for a walk, and just get out of there. Lock up the silver and get out of there. This is not a good time to have radical changes in your diet, fluid intake, alcohol intake, that sort of thing. I usually tell people that if they need to, if they want to, they can sip a little glass of wine while they're eating food and so forth, unless it makes them feel rotten the next day. But it's not the time to say, I'm going to have like 15 martinis because, that same Uncle Joe that I just got through telling you not to invite is now mixing at the bar, all right? Don't go there. Moderation. If you're going to have a really fatty, overwhelming meal, have a sensible light lunch with some vegetables and salads and stuff. Don't overdo it. Same with coffee. Don't be using coffee to stay up all night decorating your house, because then your sleep schedule will get off and you'll probably electrocute yourself anyway. And no ladders. Oh, this is another thing. I'm going to get a T-shirt made that has a ladder with a circle and a slash through it. Do not get up on the ladders. If you have Parkinson's, or even if you have osteoporosis or any risk at all of fractures, get some teenage kid to do it. They'll be happy. You can pay them a few bucks. They'll be happy to get up on a ladder and put the star on top of the tree or decorate the house or whatever. Do not get on a ladder, because there have been so many people whose healthy senior years have been completely crashed to bits by a fall and a fracture. You don't want to have a fall and a fracture. Although I had one lady who was cooking Thanksgiving dinner once. She had a goose in the oven. She went outside, sprained or broke her ankle, I can't remember which, came inside, turned off the oven, went to the emergency room, When she came back, it was the best goose she'd ever had because of that slow cooking. But generally, I don't recommend breaking your ankle during the holidays or any other time. You also consider going to a restaurant. My family decided a few years ago nobody felt like hosting Thanksgiving, so we went to a restaurant up in the city and we decorated the tables, and it was just so festive and fun. And for people who didn't like turkey, there were other choices on the menu. So think about doing something different this year that's less stressful. If you're having swallowing difficulties, some people have difficulty with swallowing. It's a good time to make sure that you've had a swallowing evaluation. If you know that certain foods are difficult for you to swallow, don't eat them. Okay, so don't eat big chunks of steak or little nuts and hard candies if those are difficult for you to swallow. If your medications stick in your throat, try using applesauce or pudding to help them slide down more easily. You have to check with your doctor before you crush anything because some of the medicines are time release and they should not be crushed. Don't let the holidays change your exercise habits. Make time to exercise. And you can also, maybe you're going to walk to the post office instead of driving, for example. Try, if you have a lot of errands to do, try to incorporate the exercise into your errands. Don't ditch your good food habits. If you have to choose between a plate of cookies and some blueberries, eat the blueberries. Maybe just one cookie, okay? Stay hydrated. This is another, and I find myself, during the holidays, I'm running around doing errands, and I may be eating cookie dough, but I'm not drinking enough water. And then by the end of the day, I'm starting to feel like I'm going to pass out. Water is very, very important. Staying hydrated. People end up in the hospital all the time because they get dehydrated, and then they get confused or they get a bladder infection. Don't let this happen to you. Some people with Parkinson's have trouble getting to the bathroom on time, but usually you can schedule bathroom trips whether you think you need them or not to avoid emergencies. Do not neglect your hydration. That's a big, big mistake. It makes everything worse. Makes your blood pressure lower, so you're likely to faint. It makes your constipation worse. It makes your energy level worse. Do not neglect the hydration. It's really important. Maybe a little green tea, unless it interferes with your sleep. Remember your Mediterranean diet. Fruits and vegetables, a little bit of protein. Like Michael Pollan says, eat food, not too much, mostly plants. So don't just go from one fattening party to another and eat a bunch of junk. All right. Now, work on your stress levels. You might need to use meditation or yoga or deep breathing to get through this period. You may need this might be a good time to get some help into your house if you need someone. Getting grab bars up in the bathroom, getting the throw rugs up off the floor, moving any little teetery end tables full of tchotchkes. Good time to clean everything out. That way nobody will break stuff in their home when they're in your home. Might be a good time to try a support group or an exercise class. But don't let the holidays stress you out. They're supposed to be fun. So try to make them fun and not stressful. And I think that's it. Okay? And remember, Maria's giving a tour later. We've got some other speakers coming up, and it's really great to see you all here. Thank you.
Thank you, Dr. Brandenburg. I think it was Nancy Reagan who said, just say no. So Dr. Brandenburg said, just say yes to those nagging people. Our next speaker is going to talk about how to choose a home health care provider. And she is Dawn Marrow from Amedisys.
Hello, everybody. Appreciate you taking some time out of your busy schedules to come and get some information and how to kind of better care for yourself and the people that you love. My name is Dawn Marrow, and I'm with a company that actually kind of has two names, just so to clear up any potential confusion. We have been operating as Tender Loving Care Home Health in Santa Clara County for 25 years. We've been owned by a company that is the largest home health care provider in the United States for about 2.5 years. They are called Amedisys. We are finally sort of officially switching our name over. So just to alleviate any confusion, we have literature over here. Some of it is labeled Tender Loving Care. It is the same company. Wrong way. So we are a Medicare certified home health agency. Everybody understands there's no place like home. Nobody chooses to be in a hospital setting. Nobody chooses to be in a skilled nursing facility. The best place for you to rest and for you to get well and take good care of yourself and the people that you love is at home. okay? Medicare understands that. That is why they pay for home health services, because it's a much more cost-effective way for patients to get the skilled care that they need. So we want to keep you where you want to be. So who's eligible for home health care? You're eligible to receive home health care if you have Medicare benefits. You need we do accept other insurances as well too, some Blue Cross and whatnot, but most people in the age that we're treating are eligible for Medicare benefits. So you require intermittent skilled care. So again, we're not talking about needing the kind of care where you've just been released from the hospital and you need to maybe have a short stay in a skilled facility. So this is us coming to your home, wherever you call home, be it an assisted living facility or, a primary residence or the residence of a loved one. We come into your home with intermittent nursing care, physical therapy, occupational therapy, speech therapy, just about any medical need you would have, we could provide for you at home. You have to be under a physician's care. Everything that we do follows doctor's orders. So what we generally do is work with, usually it's your primary care physician. Sometimes patients are managing, tougher conditions. We may partner with a cardiologist if that's the case, or an endocrinologist. It really kind of depends on the health conditions that you're managing. But most of the time, it's a primary care physician that will follow you for home health services. And we would follow the orders that they would set forth from your healthcare, for your healthcare plan. That being said, let's say somebody in the audience today feels like, home health care is something that they might really benefit from. You can always give our agency a call. We will go and help get the doctor's orders. Don't take that whole process on yourself if it isn't an easy and convenient thing to do. If you happen to be having a doctor's appointment coming up, that's one thing. But that's part of what we do. We work with the doctors in the area, and we can be very helpful in partnering with you in that process. And you have to be considered homebound, okay? So let me tell you a little bit about that. Homebound doesn't mean, sometimes people think that means bedridden or they can't even get out of their house. That's not what homebound means. Sometimes it means that you're confined to your home because you've had an illness or an injury. Sometimes people have temporary situations where they're homebound. Maybe you had to have, God forbid, you've had a fall and you have a hip replacement, and then you would come home. You would not be leaving the house for a short period of time. We could come in, work with nursing and physical therapy to help you get stronger. And then a lot of times what we do is we work with facilities in the area to bridge you back to an outpatient program. But we wouldn't want to do that until you were strong enough to go there and, get yourself there. And it was appropriate and safe for you to do so. The other condition of homebound means it requires a taxing effort for you to get out and about. A lot of people no longer drive, okay? That really automatically qualifies you as homebound because you're not able to get yourself out into the community where you need to be. But you can still be considered homebound and go to regular doctor's appointments. Medical appointments are completely separate from any kind of homebound status. You can go to family functions. You can go and get your hair done or go to the barber, all those kinds of things. We're just not looking for people who can easily get out and about and, go to an outpatient type of therapy on their own. So that's what homebound means. Also people that use support devices. So if you have a walker or a cane or certainly a wheelchair, those are the kinds of things that also will determine you as being homebound. So we've already gone through that. Homebound status is not affected when the reason to leave the home is any kind of medical treatment. Okay, that is totally separate. So what services do we offer as a Medicare certified home health agency? Skilled nursing. One of the most important things that nursing can do is to provide, obviously, the skilled care that you need, but also support for your caregivers, because there's a lot of learning and a lot of teaching that goes on. Obviously, a number of you are managing Parkinson's. Some of you may also have other diseases that you manage, such as diabetes or congestive heart failure, COPD, those kinds of things. One of the key elements that we provide in your home is a steady stream of teaching about the condition that you're suffering from, the medications that go along with it, the side effects of a lot of the medications, what early warning signs to look for to kind of keep yourself out of trouble with the disease that you're managing, those types of things. So it's going to be the skilled side of it, and it's also going to be the teaching and partnering side of it. Home health aides. So these are the folks that would come in if it's not safe for you to take a shower on your own. This is the type of person that would come in and help provide that service for you. Physical therapy. Obviously, there are many reasons why people need physical therapy from time to time. You may have had an injury, or you may have had a surgery, or you may have had a fall, which is something that we try very hard to help our patients avoid. On the table over here, we actually have a separate brochure for a program called Balanced for Life. And what it is it's a very, very high-level fall prevention program. So if you feel that you're at risk for a fall, this is a program that can be used separately in and of itself. Our physical therapist will do a complete assessment of the 4 systems of balance: the vestibular system, somatosensory, musculoskeletal, and visual too. So it's a very, very involved program, and our outcomes, meaning the success of that program, have been amazing. So if you feel or you feel yourself or somebody that you are caring for is at risk for a fall, please call us, because there's a lot that we can do. It's so much easier to treat someone when they're at risk for something than when they're already suffering from something. We know what happens when you fall and break a hip, and we end up with those hospital stays and those skilled nursing stays. And it also just completely limits your availability to be active. And we know that the human body is a use it or lose it kind of system. So our goal is to keep you as active and energetic and independent as possible. And that's what that program will provide. We have occupational therapy, and you're going to hear a little bit more about that from Pathways later in the presentation, but those are the folks that come in and help you do your activities of daily living, improve your functionality at home for the things that you need to get done. Speech therapy, and we can have a speech therapy be the only one that comes into your home to help you. In other words, it doesn't have to come with skilled nursing and physical therapy. It can operate completely on its own to deal with some of those swallowing issues and whatnot, like Dr. Brandenburg was talking about. And a medical social worker. If you don't have proper support in place, or you feel you're not in a safe situation, or somebody that you're caring for is not in a safe situation, a medical social worker can be very helpful in some of those circumstances. So some of the specialized programs we have: wound care. Our nurses are all trained in wound vac, which is something that's used for very serious wounds. But we also deal with just kind of those everyday wounds that especially some people with diabetic tend to have to manage ongoing. We have a program called Diabetes at Home that is specifically designed to help you manage your diabetes. Rehabilitation services, as I said, physical therapy, occupational therapy. Cardiac care, again, we have a whole program that's designed for patients with congestive heart failure, and really a whole number of conditions having to do with the heart, even if it's just helping you manage your blood pressure. You're not getting good control over it. We can partner with you to reach your goals with regard to that. COPD, orthopedic, again, you may have had a surgery, or you may be needing to have a surgery soon and need to get some care to get stronger before that happens. Stroke recovery, that can be a very difficult process. Home health can be really key in partnering with you in a situation like that, because the sooner and more aggressively we can work on those kinds of things, the more restorative it can tend to be. Pain management, that's another program that we can work with you on. If you have a chronic kidney disease problem. Behavioral health, we don't actually have in California at this point. If you have some depression and things like that, that's fine. But if it's a true psychiatric issue, at this point, we don't have that available. And again, surgical recovery from, the whole gamut of surgeries that patients have to experience. Some specialized services we have. Again, I've said that our nurses are all trained in wound vac, so we can handle very serious wound conditions. Infusion therapy, and again, not psychiatric therapy. Telemedicine is something that we hope to have next year. Our company is rolling it out, but we haven't been one of the agencies who's started that up yet, but that's definitely coming. So how do you select the right home care agency? You should ask how long they've been serving the community. So again, our agency has been serving this community for 25 years. We have a wonderful reputation. We have very highly trained nurses. A lot of our clinicians have additional training rather than just what the Medicare certification requires. So you want to get somebody that has the staff to really do a good job for you. Are they certified by Medicare? We certainly are certified by Medicare. Of course, we're licensed by the state. I wouldn't work with anybody who wasn't licensed by the state. And what procedures are in place to handle emergencies? Are the agency caregivers available 24 hours a day, 7 days a week? Our agency does operate 24/7. So, if you're on service with us and you get concerned or you're concerned about somebody you're caring for, you can always dial the phone number and there will always be nursing staff for you to talk to and get some help and advice from. Does the agency assign supervisors to oversee the quality care of patients the care the patients receive at home? So in our case, we would assign a nurse case manager or usually a physical therapist as well to kind of oversee and coordinate all your care and make sure that everybody's on the same page, that your doctors are being communicated with, that information is flowing back and forth, and that all the needs that you have are being addressed. Sometimes your doctor might just order a physical therapist to come in, but when our physical therapist comes in, they notice that when they're trying to work with you, your blood pressure is not stable during their treatments. Probably what we're going to do is add a nurse onto the case to make sure that your medications are being handled right, that you're keeping hydrated, all those kinds of things, and make sure that all the care that you need is being provided to you. Because there's a lot of pieces to this puzzle, and it's a lot for your caregivers to handle too. And a lot of them are not medically trained, so it really behooves you to get the support that you need. Our services are covered by Medicare, Medicaid. We don't actually take private payment, but we do take some other insurances, as I mentioned, some Cigna and Aetna and Blue Cross and some of the other, mainstream insurances. The most important thing to remember is that you have a choice. You're not in this alone. There are a number of home health care agencies out there. Ask people who have had home health before to get recommendations. Take their information from the services that they've received in their home and get their good feedback, because it's always nice when a friend can give you information, somebody you're familiar with and that you know. The other thing is, feel free, even if you just have a question or you're not sure if you need help or if so, what kind, feel free to call our agency. We're more than happy to help guide you through that process, and as I said, partner with your doctors and some of the other organizations and folks that you deal with in your care, because it can be very overwhelming. And that's my presentation. Thank you very much.